Hello everyone, happy Wednesday and thank you for joining us today and welcome to this educational presentation. Now today I'm going to teach you a simple three-step process that is designed to find the biggest moves, and this can be the biggest moves in anything from stocks to futures, commodities, currency pairs, even Bitcoin. For example, let's take a look at this chart right here. As we look at Orly, O-R-L-Y, we see here off of maybe a week or two worth of data that it seems to be going up, but there's not enough information to really tell us if we're going to have a strong move or maybe it's going to top out. Well, with this process today, very simple process, you actually would have generated a buy signal right here. And not only telling you that it was going to go up, but that it was going to be an extreme up move. And as you can see, coming into May this month, we would have had a potential 95-point gain in just a couple of months. Now, the other advantage about this process I'm going to be sharing with you is that it can also tell you when to get out. For example, it would have given an exit signal right here, and so you would have avoided this downward move in the weeks to follow. Now, the only place you can find signals like this in any market or time frame is on the PTS Primo Charting platform. This is the educational platform that identifies these extreme trends in advance. So welcome to this educational presentation today. My name is Stephen Primo, President and Founder of Specialist Trading. If you're new to my webinars, I've been trading for a total of 44 years now. I started my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for 16 years, and 9 of those years I was a specialist. So that's where we get the name Specialist Trading. If you're not familiar with a specialist, if you ever look at those old pictures or want to Google the old exchange floor photos, those guys behind those large podiums that are making these weird hand signals and yelling and screaming and big wads of paper, those were specialists. They made markets of roughly about 50 or 60 stocks. So if you wanted to buy or sell a particular equity, you had to walk up, the floor traders had to walk up to the trader who specialized in making a market. So I did that for a total of 9 years. I was trading through the crash of '87 and the bull market that followed. So I've traded just about every market environment you can think of, every system or strategy you can think of. I often state, even if you think it's new, it's most likely been around. It's just been rebranded. So in my 44 years of trading, I know what works in terms of consistency and I know what doesn't work. So most traders waste a lot of hard-earned money and a lot of time searching for that holy grail, something that's going to make them a consistent trader, when it's really right in front of you. It's sound fundamental education. That's what we provide. We provide you with the education and things that have shown to work in the past, and we avoid the things that really have shown no consistency. And you'll see that attention to really trying to educate you today with this simple process. Now, before we begin today, as always, we're required to share this with you, so please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to share with you a lot of performance results today in a lot of different markets and time frames, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. Also, please remember, since we are first and foremost an educational company, all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, if you haven't done so already, I invite each and every one of you to follow us on Twitter. There's our handle right there. I would suggest copying that down. I post different information on a daily basis, lots of slides pertaining to signals our strategies have generated, and a little bit of explanation as to why they were generated, and also little bits of financial wisdom I've accumulated along the way. So there's lots of free daily education. So copy down our handle right there if you'd like to follow us on Twitter. Now, as I stated in the opening statements, this is an educational presentation. Why? Because we are first and foremost an educational company. You see, that's what differentiates us from other webinars or other so-called teachers or gurus you may have attended or purchased their products in the past, and that our only goal is simply to educate you. And the reason why we come up with this philosophy, it's because, think of it, the entire industry is based on you going to a website or a chat room or a trading room or listening to the fundamental news and then making your decision based off an outside source discerning what the market's going to do. That's the way we were all trained. I was trained that way myself some 4 decades. And I'm here to tell you that it doesn't work. In terms of consistency, there's really no consistency I have found in following someone or something else's cues about the market. The only thing I have seen that has worked, not only in myself and in other traders, is when they make their own trading decisions. That's the only way to become a consistent trader. You're not going to get it going to a chat room. You're not going to get it following earnings. I believe I even tweeted this last month. There was an earning report, very good news. Some stock beat its expectations and went straight down. okay? It's too subjective. It doesn't work. That was happening to me 4 decades ago on the floor of the stock exchange. So it still happens. Why would we teach something that doesn't have a high level of consistency? So we only want to focus on those things that have shown consistency, and then we want to teach you so that ultimately our goal is to have you make your own trading decisions. You see, it doesn't do you any good if I tell you what to buy or sell, because once again, I would be brainwashing you and molding you into what everyone else does. There's no consistency in that. So a good mentor does not trade for his students. He teaches you how to trade so that ultimately you can make your own trading decisions. That's our goal. That's our philosophy at Specialist Trading, to teach you how to trade with a specialist edge. The same edge that was taught to me some 4 decades ago and what has sustained me, and hopefully it can sustain you as well. Now, because we are presenting this in a classroom setting, ask me a bunch of questions. I don't care, as many as you'd like, but please wait till the very end, okay? I don't want to stop for every slide. I like to teach you what these slides represent and how to use them and part of this process. So if you have a question, write it down and try to remember it. I promise I'll get to it at the very end. The only thing I will answer at this point is this being recorded? Yes, it is. So every one of you will receive a link to this recording so you can watch it at your own leisure, okay? Once again, we have a good crowd here today. If you have a question, please wait till the very end of class. All right, with that stated, let's begin. I'd like to start out with a theme today, because each of our presentations, our educational webinars, has a theme, and this is something my mentors taught me. They said, Steve, it is a gambler's mindset, a gambler's mentality to try and pick tops and bottoms. Now, I was taught to trade this way, to try and pick a top or bottom. Something's overbought, something's oversold, something's way too high, something's way too low, right? That's similar to saying, well, this team has been losing too much, they're bound to win. Or, this golf expert has been telling me that this guy has been winning too much, you've got to sell him because he's going to lose eventually. I mean, that's gambling. That's a gambling's mindset. You shouldn't relate that to trading stocks, futures, currency pairs, because we all know that there's no such thing as overbought or oversold. Any market can go up as high as it wants to, and it can go down as low as it wants to. So it's a gambler's mindset to pick tops and bottoms, but it's a professional's mindset to trade with the trend. You see, we're all taught to trade with the trend. That's trading 101, right? The only trouble is everyone is taught a different way what the trend is, either by looking at price patterns, by using some indicators, a bunch of different things, right? And usually they don't have a high level of consistency. And then we hear about some guy that bought some stock at the very bottom and it went up 50 points in 2 weeks, and then we figure, why should we go with the trend? Let's just try and pick those big winners, okay? Remember, that is a gambler's mindset. You can still get some tremendous winners when you're in sync with the trend. So that's today's theme of this educational presentation. Okay, with that said, let's begin. And we're going to be talking about one of our favorite as well as popular tools and indicators we have at Specialist Trading, the PTS XT. I developed this with Pro Trader Strategies, and let me tell you a little bit about it. It's an indicator designed to identify extreme trends in advance. Okay, that's its only job. Now, this is different from other tools we have. I know we have a lot of other trending tools, and someone will say, well, what's the difference? They're identifying the trend as well. Well, sure. You have different types of trends. You have moderate trends. You have, shallow trends. You also have extreme trends. This one, its only job is to identify those extreme trends. That's where you find the low-hanging fruit. This is where you really want to be in something, right? For example, as we look at this weekly chart of Freeport-McMoRan, FCX, okay, obviously, it started its extreme trend right around here. How could we have taken advantage of that? It's almost going straight up. Well, what the PTS XT does is it develops a block around the extreme trend. As we see right here, a yellow block equals an extreme uptrend. Now, this block is not repainted. It does not come after the fact. The very first bar that it identifies as being an extreme uptrend, which would have been this one right here, it paints a block around, and it continues to paint a block around as it is in the extreme trend. Once it discerns that it's out of this extreme trend, well, then price goes out of this block, okay? This can be the same way to the downside as well. As we look at this chart here in ABMB, all right, obviously there's an extreme move to the downside here. This was just this past month, May, coming straight down. How could we have taken advantage of that? Well, we apply the PTS XT, and we see here that well in advance of that downward move, it painted a red block around this block. So a red block equals an extreme downtrend. Remember, it does not repaint. It does not go back and reconfigure. Once it paints a red block, it will continue to paint all the blocks, the preceding blocks, red as long as it is identifying an extreme downtrend. Once that has ended, well then price just leaves the red block and it remains there. Now the way it does this is it's based on multiple proprietary indicators and their relationship to one another. Now I developed this with ProTrader Strategies. For years it took us to put this together, and we're really proud of it because it works so well. In fact, we're so proud of it, it's official, it's our most popular trading tool. Now how do we know it's our most popular trading tool? Well, obviously by our students and by the testimonials they give us, but also by a number of copycats around the internet that we've noticed. Okay, this is the original, and you're going to find a lot of these copycats that almost have copied it almost to the exact extreme of what we have. But remember, we developed this, and since we know exactly what it's based on, the secret of the PTS XT is not in copying it and putting a block around something that you feel is an extreme up or downtrend. The secret is in teaching you how to trade it. Now today, I'm going to share with you just one of the dozens of ways in which to trade it. I feel it's the simplest and sometimes most powerful way to trade this. And this is part of this three-step process I'm going to teach you today, applying the PTS XT. Okay, so let's go through this process. And remember, you can only use this process on our platform, the PTS Primo Charting platform, because it teaches traders actually how to trade with the PTS XT. Okay, step one of this process. At or after the close of the trading day, conduct a nightly PTS XT scan. Now, the reason why I say at is because we know a lot of traders are able to be in front of the screen all the time. So with roughly 5 or so minutes before the close, you can actually conduct a PTS XT scan. Now, if you're not able enough to be in front of your computer, well, you'll come home that night, and after the close, you can conduct a scan. But here's what it would look like. On our platform, remember, you can only do this on our platform. You see here, when you open the platform, you have the blank screen with all our strategies and techniques here in the green column. What you click on is the PTS XT Extreme Trend tab, and a drop-down menu will appear. You want to go to the bottom where it says Scan. Click that on, and you'll see this page appear. Now, what you want to do next is click on Load Symbol List. This means that we've provided you, once you see that, you'll see a list of almost any market you can imagine, anywhere from currency pairs, futures, Bitcoin, ETFs, NASDAQ exchange, Asian markets, Canadian markets, European markets. It makes no difference. We've provided you with this on our platform, and click on whatever list you're interested in trading. Now, for simplicity's sake, we click on the NASDAQ 100, and it'll come up here to show you whatever you're scanning. All right, you'll see the spreadsheet of all the stocks. Now, the next thing you do is just click on Scan. It's that simple. And in a matter of seconds, this whole process probably takes less than a minute or two. You'll see a series of either green or red horizontal bars. Now, this just means the green ones mean that these are the buy signals where we have a yellow block around the corresponding stocks. The red ones mean you have a red block. Okay, so that's the first part of the process. Step number 2 is we want to select stocks to trade that have a bar count of 1. All right, so let's go back to that scanning page. As we see here on the right, we have a column that says bar count. What this tells us is how many days or how many bars we have been in either an extreme up block or an extreme down block. And you can sort them by double clicking on the bar count right here. As you can see, we have 4 days, it's been here 3. What you want to do is focus on the ones that are only 1, because that means they're brand new, they're fresh. This is the first day it's been in an extreme up block or down block. So these are the ones you want to focus on, and you can see to the far left, these are the corresponding stocks, okay? Now that's step 2. Let's go to step 3, which is simply trade. It's that easy, okay? It's not complicated. This is one of the ways we teach our students the simplest way to trade with the PTS XT. As I said, there are literally dozens of ways. You can apply your own strategy while you're in a red or a yellow block. We have many different techniques I teach in the course, ways in which to apply it, but this is the simplest way to buy on the first yellow or red colored block bar. Okay, so let's look at this example in FTNT, Fortnite. All right, we're kind of slowly headed up. And let's say you did a scan maybe 5 minutes before the close. And you see that there was a yellow block here. It was in the scan. And this is the first day. Now, this is not guaranteed that it's going to go up 100 points in the next week. Sometimes they're only in a block for 1 or 2 days, and then they go out of the block. But if it's going to take off and really take off to the upside, this is the block you want to be getting in on, right? So if it meets your parameters, your sell parameters in case it doesn't work out, and your stop parameters and risk parameters, which we teach you and go over in the course, you want to take this trade. So you would either buy here on the close or place a limit order for the next day or buy in the opening of the next day. And as you can see, on the next day, we opened somewhere similar, came down, but still remained in the yellow block. And in the next 3 weeks, the stock was up 22 points. Now, looking back in hindsight, this was the bar you wanted to get in on, right? The very first bar. That's how simple this process is. Let's look at another example here. Let's look at actually some more recent PTSXT examples. These can go back anywhere from the last couple of months to the last couple of weeks, all right? And remember, you can only apply this 3-step process by using our PTS Primo charting platform. Remember, this is the original PTS XT. You'll only find it here, and you'll only find the education from the person who developed it in our courses. So this is the tool and the platform that identifies extreme trends in advance. Okay, let's look at ALXN, all right? Alexion. Someone would say, Steve, there's only 2 bars here. I can't figure out anything just by looking at 2 bars. I mean, I have to look at the earnings, or I have to look at support and resistance. I have to look at and see, what's going on with the jobless claims. Remember, as I often state in every webinar, I looked at those things 40 years ago, and they didn't work in terms of consistency for me then. So why would you think they're going to start working now? In fact, if I'm still here and I haven't looked at news, I haven't looked at support and resistance, I haven't looked at earnings, I haven't looked at moving averages or volume in 40 years, then aren't I living proof that you really don't need those things? And remember, if you want to look at those things, you're more than welcome, but they're not required in any of our teaching. So we're just looking at 2 bars here. Had you, let's say, run a scan 5 minutes before the close of this day in April, well, you would have seen that there was a yellow block around here on this bar on the 14th of April. So let's say you decided to buy on the close and 24 points coming into this week in May, okay? In fact, 2 days after that buy signal was generated, look what happened. The stock gapped up. Obviously off some news or some event, right? Since we don't follow that, this is a perfect example of why it's not required. News and fundamental information is not required and is not included in any of our strategies or methods. So how did we know to buy this 2 days in advance? Because the market tells you everything you need to know. There's absolutely no reason to follow those things if you don't feel you have to. Once again, I'm living proof that you don't need to follow those. I'm still here trading, and I haven't looked at any earnings reports or any fundamental information in the past 4 decades. Let's look at SPLK, okay? Once again, only looking at 3 bars here, but if we had performed a scan, step number 1, we had seen that, well, okay, there's a red block around this bar. Now, this is not guaranteed. Remember, once again, the very next day we could go out of this block, but if you're going to be getting in on a trade, this is one of the simplest and best places to get in if it's going to be an extreme trend. So this is a downtrend signal. So you would have sold or bought the puts, whatever you want, and selling on this day, which was the 26th of April, you could have potentially captured 24 points coming into this last week in May. Here's another example in VRSN, Verisign, okay? Buy signal was generated. You could have bought either that day or the close of the next day, whatever you want to do, and 26 points. Now, as you notice, once we leave the yellow block, we would suggest avoid trading altogether because this is where you go into those whipsaw areas or these range markets. Unfortunately, this is where most of us trade, right? Because we say, okay, well, the market's pausing. I'm going to buy here. A lot of times it'll change trend. Remember, the low-hanging fruit is in these blocks. This is where you want to trade. Now, obviously, if you have your own method that you think works well for you, we strongly believe that we will increase your odds for consistency if you only take buy signals of whatever method you want within this block, right? This is where you'll really get those big moves. So if you're convinced that, well, my strategy works the best. Well, a lot of our students just say, listen, Steve, I already have a strategy, but I purchased the PTS XT because I only trade it within the block. Now, that's another way to use it. We also teach you different patterns and different ways to apply it with our other tools as well. So there's just dozens of ways to trade with this. This is the simplest way, to buy on the very first block, because once again, looking back in hindsight, the stock is up 26 points. Don't you wish you would have gotten in on the very first yellow block? So this is the process we're teaching you today. Here's an example in BIDU. Once again, the stock was heading lower. This is where most traders would say, well, it looks like we're oversold now. I think I want to buy this. Nope. The PTS XT is signaling a downtrend. You could have sold right here the first day of May, trading day of May, potentially captured 28 points in the next 2 weeks. Here's an example in Adobe. All right. Stock gapped up. It went up very high, but then closed towards the middle of its range. Someone would say, well, that's not a really clear signal as to what it wants to do. Sure, but according to this tool, it actually looks like it wants to go higher. You could have bought here and potentially captured 50 points. And once again, this is why we say once we exit the yellow block, it's in your best interest actually to not be in the trade, because look what happened after this. If you're going to stay in the trade, at least protect yourself, move your stops up. So if it starts to head lower, that's where you want to get out, okay? So this is a great example of only trading inside the yellow block. As we look at the next example here, we can look at news. This is one of the main questions that most students tell me. They say, Steve, I'm sorry, I can't cut the umbilical cord. I have to look at news. I have been trained to always watch fundamental news. It seems to work for me. And, you know, I like to wait for news events because that's what tells me how to trade. Remember, I was trained this exact same way, okay? I was trained to follow news events, and it didn't work for me 44 years ago. So I don't know why students of mine think it's going to work now. But once again, we're not here to tell you how not to trade. We're just here to teach you things that have worked. And in my personal experience, I have found no consistency in following news. Sure, every once in a while, they will give you a great way to trade, and it'll work great, just like the slot machines in Las Vegas. Every once in a while, you'll hit a jackpot, and you'll think, wow, I'm doing fantastic, and it gives you this false sense of security. But if you stick around there long enough, if you continue to stay at the same slot machine, it's designed for you to give all your money back. It's the same way by looking at fundamental news. Why? Because it's subjective. As I said earlier, about a month ago, there was an earnings announcement that came out. The student told me it was great news, and why did the stock go down? I said, that's why I don't trade fundamental news. It's too subjective. Why use things that are not cut and dry? We want to teach things that are cut and dry, such as seeing a yellow block around a bar. That's your setup right there. That's all you need to know. Now let's look at this news event that occurred just a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago in Peloton. Yahoo Finance reported that the feds agreed to a treadmill recall. Now, the exercise giant Peloton, PTON, agreed to recall its popular and pricey treadmill after at least one child was killed after becoming caught underneath the machine's belt. Terrible news, right? So anyone looking at this would say, this is terrible news. The stock's going to go straight down. And boy, let's say you already own the stock, or let's say you were thinking about selling it, going short. This is your cue to jump in and go short the stock, right? This is the way most traders, myself included, this is the way we're taught. Now, pay particular attention to the date here, May 5th, okay? About 3 weeks ago. This is where the news came out on May 5th. Obviously, the stock opened up and it did fall out of bed. Let's say you came home that night and let's say you owned Peloton. You said, wow, this is terrible news. So you sell on the opening of the next day. And now, a week or so later, you're kicking yourself saying, why did I sell? It's right back up to where it was on the day of the news, okay? This is why we don't require nor teach anything related to news. It's often a day late and a dollar short. Remember, as I said earlier, the way my mentors taught me, the reason why we don't follow news is because the chart you're looking at right in front of you, the source of what you're trading, tells you just about everything you need to know. The only trouble is we're never trained to listen to it. We're always trained to listen to what's the news announcement? What are the earnings? What's the jobless claims? What's this guy saying in a chat room? What's that blog say? We're always trained that an outside source is supposed to give us and show us the way, right? This is the way I was taught. And for a year, almost 2 years, I struggled tremendously. I almost lost my job on the floor of the exchange because I couldn't make money using these things. I was lucky enough to have some mentors that taught me that Remember, it's a gambler's mindset to try and pick tops and bottoms. It is a professional's mindset to go with the trend. Now, what did the PTS Extreme Trend tool tell us? If we applied it to Peloton, well, guess what? A full 2 weeks in advance, it generated a sell signal well before any news came out. So how did it know that? Did the CEO of Peloton call us up at Pro Trader Strategies and Specialist Trading? And did they say, hey, listen, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have some really bad news coming out. So why don't you tell your students to sell everything and create a red block around our stock, okay? Because you seem like a nice educational company. I mean, that's silly, right? So how did we know? The stock you're trading, whatever market, currency pair, future, tells you just about everything you need to know. You just need some structure in order to communicate that to you. And that's what the PTS XT does. Now, not only did it tell us that it's going to go lower, it said that it was going to be extreme downward move. So if you had sold on the 20th of April, well, you could have potentially captured 26 points to the downside. Let's look at this example in NVDA, okay? Now, obviously, it's been going up. This is where most students say, well, Steve, I can't buy here. It's been going up for a week. It's tough. I know myself, I had a lot of issues trying to trade this way when I first started trading it. I thought, well, it's too high. Even though it's generated a buy signal, how can I buy up here? Well, it's up to you. Remember, you're in charge. We're never going to tell you you have to buy or have to sell something. We're just giving you the information. We want you to make your decision. We're not like a chat room or a trading room giving signals. That's not in any way our goal. In fact, that goes entirely against our philosophy. We just, as a mentor, want to provide you and then let you decide. That's how you become consistent. So a yellow block appeared around the stock on the 1st of April, and the stock went up 90 points in the next 3 weeks. Okay, so you potentially could have captured 90 points. That's how much you had to work with. As we look at a workday here, a sell signal was generated coming into May. 30 points coming into this last week that potentially you could have captured. Now let's look at this example here. Someone would say, well, Steve, what happens when the trend changes? For example, this was going straight up, and then obviously some news or something came out, and then it went straight down. Now, I would have loved to have captured this uptrend, and then when it was going down, I would have loved to have captured the downtrend. But how can you do that? Well, it's as simple as applying the PTS XT. As we see here on the first yellow block bar, you could have bought there and potentially captured 50 points. Once it left, now we created a red block bar. You could have sold there and potentially captured 48 points. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, yeah, Steve, this is great, but you say I made 50 points. I would have had to buy here and sell at the very top to make 50 points. And then I would have had to sell here and cover at the very bottom to potentially make 48 points. So in order to make roughly 100 points, I have to be perfect with this, right? Remember, these are not signals. We're not telling you you would have made this. This is how much you had to work with. All right, so let's say you didn't capture that. Let's say you only captured half of that in a month time, okay? So you only made 50 points. Not a bad little couple of months work, right? 50 points. Let's say you only made a third of that. Let's say you only made 30, 35 points. What if someone came up to you and said, hey, listen, in the next month or two, would you like to make 35 points? Don't you think you would jump at that opportunity? So we're showing you what you have to work with. If you only made a third of this, 35 points, let's say you only had 100 shares, that's $3,500 in a couple of months. That's not a bad little trade. So this is the beauty of this. Potentially you could capture 50 points, sure. But let's say you only captured a third of that, you can still do very well with this. Now, here's what we opened up with, this stock Orly in the first slide we shared with you today. How could we have taken advantage of this? Okay, we see that we bought right there at the bottom in March, and we would have exited right here the second week of May. How could we have done that? Well, it's as simple as applying the PTS XT. And we see right there that the first yellow block appeared right there where the buy signal was. You could have purchased it on the close. You see the very next day it went lower. This is where students get scared. They say, but Steve, I'm losing now. But you're still in the yellow block. So even though you have a down day, you may want to buy some more. A lot of students say, well, Steve, I only buy the down days in the yellow block. That's a totally different way to trade it, but just as valid. Any way you choose to do it is up to you, but I'm sharing with you the simplest and easiest one, which is simply to buy in the first yellow colored block. Potentially, once again, you could have captured 95 points. And you see, as once you exited right here on the first bar out of the block, you could have missed this downward move. And I believe, that I took this slide last week, I believe the stock is even lower now. Now let's look at some other markets and some other time frames. Not everyone trades stocks, so let's look at this first one in a 10-minute chart of the E-mini futures. This was on the 20th of May. This was last week, not even a week ago, about 4 or 5 days ago. As we can see here, on a 10-minute chart of the E-mini futures, you could have potentially captured 20 points to the downside. That's $1,000 per contract. And then potentially captured 60 points to the upside. That's $3,000 per cut. So potentially you could have captured $4,000 trading one contract, all right? Let's say you only captured half of that. Okay, so instead of $4,000, you only made $2,000. And remember, this is in one day. This is how simple it is when you use the PTS XT. Here's an example in a 4-hour chart of the Swiss franc, okay? Same exact process where you don't change anything because we change markets or time frames. Here's a 4-hour chart. Same thing happened on the 4-hour chart. You had a sell signal on the first red colored block, 100 pips to the downside in about 4 days. That's $1,000 per unit. And then look what happened. Once it exited the red block, that's where you avoid trading. Now lastly, if the markets decide to head lower, if we decide one day, no one knows when that's going to be, to go into a downward market, a lot of students, a lot of traders like to exit stocks and futures and like to get into something more viable, such as a commodity. Well, here is an example in soybean oil, okay? This was just taken from the middle of April coming into this last week. There's nothing that changes. Just because we're not trading stocks doesn't mean we have to change everything. You know, one of the things I hate about, I go to webinars every once in a while where they'll have a particular strategy or method and they'll say, well, this only works on stocks or this only can work on this time frame. I mean, that to me is silly because if it's really a valid method, it should be applied to be able to work and trade with any market, any time frame, any direction. So even if you want to trade commodities, you're not going to have to buy another PTS XT strictly designed for commodities. Or if you want to trade currency pairs, you don't have to buy one that is designed to trade currency pairs. It's so transferable onto these other markets. You can trade any market, any time frame. As you can see here, that was a nice 15-point gain in soybean oil coming into this last week that represented thousands of dollars trading this commodity. Okay, so as we go to the end here, let's review this process we shared with you, okay? This is the simple 3-step process. Step number 1 is you want to conduct a nightly PTS XT scan. Now remember, you can either do it when you come home and place your order for the next day, buy in the opening, place a limit order at the close, place a limit order lower. It's up to you. You can buy an option. Remember, this course does not tell you how to trade. We're just teaching you and presenting you with things that have high probability. So it's up to you how you want to enter the trade. If you want to buy a spread, if you want to buy a call or a put, or you actually want to buy the stock or the future, it's completely up to you. Now, if you're lucky enough to be in front of your computer, well, 5 minutes before the close of the day, before the market closes, just conduct a scan and you'll see where these one bar setups are on the scan. Remember, you want to get in at the very beginning. If it's going to be a big move in either direction, the first day is the one you want to get in on. That's why we have the bar count for you on the scan. So select stocks with a bar count of 1. If you want to trade this simple process, that's where you want to get in. Remember, if it's going to take off, even though it's not guaranteed, a good amount of these really take off. That's where you want to get in. And then finally, just trade. Decide how you want to get in, where you want to get in. And we go over this a lot in the course as well. Remember, today's theme, it's a gambler's mindset to try and pick tops and bottoms. In my opinion, you should never try to pick a top or a bottom. It's a recipe for disaster. But it's a professional mindset to trade with the trend. I can't think of a better way to trade an extreme trend, that low-hanging fruit, than with the PTS XT. So we're just about at the halfway mark, believe it or not, in 2021. Okay, in another month, we'll be halfway through. Ask yourself, do you think this indicator can help your trading for the remainder of 2021? I think if you're honest with yourself, you have a resounding yes, all of you. We have a big crowd here today. I think the majority of you would really be interested in trading with this. So we have a great offer for all of you if you're interested. We're going to offer you a great discount on the PTS Extreme Trend, okay? It generates these high probability zones that you can apply to any market in any time frame. Remember, you can trade with your current strategy, but we suggest if you feel confident that your strategy is well enough to trade, well then if you get a buy signal with your strategy, just make sure it's in a yellow block zone. If you get a sell signal, just wait for it to be in a red block zone. That's where you'll get those high probability setups. You can also build your own strategy. We have a number of students who have purchased the PTS XD and have built a strategy based off of that are really interesting. That gives you the confidence to pull the trigger. Remember, you can also apply this to day trading. We showed you a 4-hour chart of a currency pair. We also showed you a 10-minute chart of the E-mini future. Now, we're not going to stop there. We also have an extra added bonus. New customers will receive 12 months of the PTS Primo Charting platform, 1 full year free. Remember, you can only apply this on the PTS Primo Charting platform. You're going to get a full year free. Now, if you already have the platform, but you're interested in getting the PTS XT, don't worry. ProTrader Strategies is very flexible. They'd be willing to work with you and give you a great deal. Remember, on the platform, you're just not going to get the indicator, the PTS XT. You're also going to get many other features that you'll only find on our platform. This is over 4 decades of strategies, tips, techniques that I've accumulated from the floor, from trading with other traders who've been trading this the same amount of time, that you'll only find here. For example, our enhanced buy-sell line. We have 4 different separate ways to discern what the overall trend of any market is. A strength of trend tool. This is a tool specifically designed to tell you if a trend is running out of steam or not, or if it still has a lot of more momentum left in it. You can apply this with the PTS XT. You also get auto-generated exit levels. I know a lot of you were saying, well, how do I exit? Where do I get out? You'll also get exit levels. With one click, you'll see where to exit using this one method. Over 90 of the most prominent technical indicators, as well as personalized tech support. But remember, the best thing about what we went over today, that 3-step process, is the signal scanner. You'll be able to find all the PTS XT setups that were generated that day using our scanner. That's where you want to get in at the very beginning of these extreme trending runs. Remember, the PTS XT you'll only find on our platform. There are many copycats out there. Why? Because this is such a great tool. Even though they've copied it or tried to copy it. I mean, I've seen some examples on the internet where they're close to it. They're really not the same thing, but they're using the same yellow blocks and red blocks. It's not the same, because who would you rather get instruction from? Someone who's copying a product or a method, or someone who developed it and has been using it for years? That's the beauty of what we have. We have the original tool plus the original instruction plus dozens of ways in which to trade it. The real secret to the PTS XD is in knowing how to apply it. You won't find that anywhere else except here at ProTrader Strategies and Specialist Trading. Okay, so let's break this down. What's the special offer we have for the PTS XT? Now, normally, if you just purchase this separately, if you just came to the website and said, hey, I've heard about this, I want to buy it, it would cost you close to $5,000, okay? We're not going to charge you $5,000. We have a very good discount today. What we want to do is have a one-time payment of $497, okay? That's it. You just have to pay $497 once and then just $97 per month. It's that simple, okay? You don't have to come up with $5,000, just a small amount, and you can still be up and running as early as today. Our tech support team will set it up for you, set up the platform for you, set up the tool, and you'll be getting all the instructional videos as well. Now, I know a lot of students say, well, Steve, I don't want a monthly payment. I'm ready to buy it free and clear. Well, we'll discount it as well, 10%, and you'll only pay in full $44.95. You'll still save $500, okay? And remember, new students receive 1 free year of the platform. So this is a great, great offer. I can't think, I can almost say many of you probably lost over $500 this last couple of months, right? Imagine just paying $497. I can't think of a better way to get introduced to this great tool. This is our most popular tool. It's really got some great testimonials. Go online, see how many people love it. And for a small monthly payment of $97 a month, you'll be up and running as early as today. Take your trading to the next level with the original PTS XT and its training at ProTrader Strategies and Specialist Trading. This is the original PTS XT Extreme Trend Indicator. You'll only get the type of education that you'll find from the developers, from the founders of this tool at our website. So here's how to take advantage of this great, great offer. contact Pro Trader Strategies. They're my sister site. I developed the tool with them. They're in charge of all the tech support with the platform. They're also in charge of all the pricing and the discounts. You can email them at their email address right there, or I would suggest strongly calling them at 310-598-6677. They have trading consultants manning the phones right now. They'd be happy to take your order over the phone, or if you just have some questions, let's say you already own the platform and you have some questions about purchasing this, but you already have the platform, maybe you'd like a discount. They're very flexible. They'd be willing to work with you, and there's absolutely no obligation. Just call them directly at 310-598-6677. Now, if you look on the chat box of the GoToWebinar column, they have just posted a live link to the sign-up page if you'd like to sign up or get more information online. That's the same as this link right here, but this link you see in front of you is not live. But on the chat box, on the GoToWebinar column, on the far right column, they have posted a live link. So you can just click that on and it will take you there, okay? So I promised you I would answer questions. We have about 10 or 15 minutes left. If you have any questions, go to the question and answer box, type them in, and I will answer them all to the best of my ability. Let me just open it up right here. Plus, I'll leave all this information up here for you, okay? Someone says, what is the difference between the buy-sell line and the PTS XT? Okay, well, the buy-sell line, remember, there are different ways to find the trend. The buy-sell line is a great tool for telling you the overall trend. Now, that overall trend, sometimes you'll have these extreme moves in the overall trend, and sometimes you'll have just kind of sideways, kind of like flatlining in the overall trend, but it's still in an overall uptrend or overall downtrend. The difference between that and the PTS XT is that the PTS XT is only looking to identify extreme up moves or extreme down moves. All right, so if a stock is slowly heading up or kind of going sideways, then slowly up or in a range, that can still be in an overall uptrend, and that will be identified by the buy-sell line. But the PTS XT won't identify it, and therefore it'll keep you out of that. Remember, it's only designed to get you in that low-hanging fruit. That's where you want to be. We often say it's like the express lane. Think of it like this way. Let's say you want to go to work, and now that things are opening up with the pandemic, everyone is out on the roads again, right? So it's not so easy to drive anymore. You're starting to hit traffic again. Let's say you go on the freeway, and it's bumper to bumper, okay? And you've got to get from point A to point B, and that's the way trading is sometimes. Sometimes the minute you get into a trade, all you do is you just go sideways. It's just a range market, and you get whipsawed. And you say to yourself, gosh, I thought I was going to have a really good trade here, and I'm kind of stuck in traffic. Nothing's happening, right? Well, what if someone said, well, listen, I know of this shortcut that no one else knows about. It's like an express lane. You have the whole freeway to yourself, and you'll get where you want to get much faster. That's what it's like when you're trading with the PTS XT. It's like your own express lane. It only identifies these really strong, trendy markets, and those are the ones you want to be in. As I said, many of our students don't even trade outside of the blocks anymore. They'll just say, you know what, this is so great, I'm only going to trade inside of the block. And I'll use my own strategy or my own technique, but either way, I know I'm going to have a high probability setup. That's what it's like when you trade with the PTS XT, okay? Okay, next question. Someone's saying, do I have to apply the buy-sell line with this? No, you don't have to if you don't want to. It's up to you, entirely up to you if you'd like to apply it. It's not required. The only thing we say is that, if you want to use the PTS XT, all you need is that indicator. You can apply another tool if you want to, but it's our philosophy not to overcomplicate things. We know a lot of students, when they start struggling, when they start having a difficult time, the first thing they want to do is add more and more things because they think that's what's going to make them successful. When in reality, I've been there before. I did the same thing 44 years ago when I was struggling, and it's actually the opposite. The more things you pile onto your trading plan, the further away you will get to be a consistent trader. When you keep things consistent and only use one or two of our techniques, only use one or two scans, only use one or two indicators, that's when you become a consistent trader. So we can't get any simpler than this. If you just want to use this alone with the yellow and red blocks, that's all you need, okay? I just share with you a full 45 minutes of examples, not using anything else other than the red and yellow blocks, okay? Lastly, someone's asking about educational correspondence. Yes, with all my strategies, even though I didn't mention it in this, you still get educational correspondence. That's my private email address. You can contact me whenever you like, and usually I try to get back to students within the next 24 hours, sometimes quicker if I can, but it just depends on how busy I am a lot of times. Sometimes there are just literally dozens of emails a day. And if you come in at the last, you're at the last one in line. And so it may take a day or two for me to get to you. But I always answer all my students' emails, and I try to get back as quickly as possible, okay? So yes, that's educational correspondence. You will get my personal email address as well. Even though it wasn't mentioned in the promo, that is included as well, okay? All right, great questions. If there are no further ones, I just want to say this is a great tool. I use this personally myself. It really helps with your trading. I trade the E-mini futures, and I apply it using this as well. I'll only trade once I see a block sometimes, and I'll only trade outside of the block. I won't even trade this as well. So it's a great way to be in sync with an extreme trend. Take advantage of this great offer. There are trading consultants manning the phones right now. They're very flexible. They'd be willing to work with you. And once again, we have such a great tech support. If you come along with our program, if you sign up today and take advantage of this offer, you can be up and running as early as today. You can have the platform and the PTS XT installed on your computer this afternoon. So take advantage of this. Contact Pro Trader Strategies. There's absolutely no obligation. Give them a call at 310-598-6677. Now, as we take one last look at our disclaimer, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your Wednesday to hear me speak today. I really wish you the best of luck trading. I want you to be a consistent trader. But more importantly, I look forward to you being a student of mine in the PTS XT course. Thank you so much for attending, and have a great trading day. Bye-bye.